Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. That guy con man. Everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids to being caught public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician, just a stone cold, narrative driven politician. Nobody thinks he's a real human. Whether you like Trump or not, whether you think he's corrupt or not, that's a human being. You know what that guy is. Same thing with RFK Jr. Whether you believe that he's correct about vaccines or whether you believe his policies would be effective, you know that's a human being. With Newsom, you've got like this construct, this cardboard cutout of a person. I don't think people want.
When Gavin Newsom's inflated ego collided with Joe Rogan's unfiltered honesty, the result was a political takedown so brutal it could make California disappear out of sheer embarrassment. Rogan didn't just challenge Newsom, he dismantled him, turning the governor into a living TED Talk on failure, laced with hypocrisy, Botox, and pure delusion. This wasn't a debate, it was a complete annihilation. Newsom came woefully unprepared, bringing a water pistol and a gallon of hair gel to what was essentially a flamethrower fight.
When Gavin Newsom talks about California, he's like, I'm very big on California, very bullish on California. Hey, bro, they're all moving. The only reason why they don't move is because it's too difficult to move. It's too expensive to leave versus all the bullshit with all the permits and all that. It's too expensive.
Gavin Newsom's political career feels like the human equivalent of a smoothie made entirely from kale, smugness, and hollow campaign slogans. He seems like the kind of man who starts each day by staring in the mirror and giving himself a standing ovation just for existing. All the while, California is burning, flooding, overtaxing itself into oblivion, and somehow managing to trip over every legislative rake in its path toward progress. Then comes Joe Rogan, the podcast philosopher, elk meat aficionado, and human lie detector. You know it's bad when even Rogan, a guy who once spent 3 hours passionately discussing the benefits of saunas, decides that you are the clown most deserving of a roast.
Well, the whole state is just so poorly managed. It's so frustrating and confusing. And then he gets on TV and pretends like everything's great. Mm-hmm. And California's the best. We have the best state. We have the most amazing economy. And like, you're out of your mind, dude. You've ruined this state. Personally ruined it.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more. Gavin Newsom struts around like California is the VIP section of America and he's the velvet rope guarding it. With his signature gelled hair and clueless confidence, he gives off the vibe of a game show host who accidentally wandered onto the Senate floor and decided to start governing. Meanwhile, every major city in his state is just one pothole away from becoming an archaeological dig site. But who needs functional infrastructure when you can throw a sustainability summit serving quinoa sliders and call it progress?
Did you see the governor talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down? And he did this little dance, like
some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward. And
with a big smile on his face. Look at the little wiggle he does with his shoulders. These people lost their homes. A lot of those people don't even have fire insurance because the fire insurance pulled out of California. Like, it's all insanely mismanaged.
Joe Rogan took one look at the situation and basically said, all right, let's dismantle this hologram of competence. And honestly, watching him go after Gavin Newsom is like watching a grizzly bear debate a Starbucks barista who thinks vibes count as policy. Newsom, whose solution to homelessness seems to involve sweeping it out of sight whenever a tech conference rolls into town, somehow tried to convince the world that California is the promised land. In his eyes, every crumbling sidewalk is a symbol of innovation, and every tent city is just a vibrant expression of community living. Rogan, visibly baffled, blinked twice and all, but asked, is this a prank show, or is the state actually being run like a group project where the leader never showed up? And then there's Newsom's economic strategy, which appears to be, tax everyone until they either leave or forget what joy feels like. His policies are the fiscal equivalent of a juice cleanse. Sounds virtuous, but mostly just leaves you broke and stuck on the toilet.
Like a bizarre, I did enjoy affecting the election.
Dude, imagine. I can imagine.
I did enjoy it because I didn't want to. I did not want to get involved in any way, shape, or form. But it got so weird.
Yeah, you'd express that publicly in the past.
I was like, I don't want to have nothing, and I don't want to have anything to do with it in the future. I didn't want to. I just felt sucked into it. I'm like, like we can't do this again. We can't do it with these same people that does for 4 years, and then they're gonna we're gonna do it differently now. Like what's going on? Did you see what's going on? Obviously, you've seen what's going on in California, but the governor gave this creepy fucking speech where he was talking about
Gavin Newsom's environmental record. Buckle up. He loves to boast about his green initiatives while leading a state powered more by rolling blackouts than reliable energy. He banned gas-powered lawn equipment, just as wildfires turned half of California into one massive marshmallow roast. Joe Rogan barely had to try. He simply tilted his head and mumbled something about logic taking a vacation, and Newsom's entire agenda practically combusted on the spot. Then came the pandemic, where Gavin locked down the entire state like it was a dystopian theme park, only to waltz maskless into a Michelin-starred restaurant, likely humming "Rules are for peasants." Meanwhile, Rogan was on his podcast thumbing through medical studies like a jacked Sherlock Holmes on vitamin D, dismantling inconsistencies with laser precision. Watching him expose Newsom's hypocrisy was like watching a lion floss with spaghetti. Unexpected, ruthless, and oddly mesmerizing. And where has all of this leadership taken California? Straight into bankruptcy and a utopia built on do as I say, not as I French laundry. Rogan smelled the sanctimony from a mile away and launched full mental jujitsu on the charade, countering every hollow virtue signal with chokeholds of logic and common sense.
You know, when I went there, I had a great relationship with President Xi. We got along very well. And they treated me better than anybody's ever been treated. And I said, this air is good. Do you know they closed every factory 1 week before I got there from within 200 miles?
That's like what Gavin Newsom did when Xi Jinping came to San Francisco.
He cleaned it up.
He cleaned it up. He got rid of all the homeless
Isn't that terrible
people.
in a way to think, you know? He cleaned it up and then it became a pigsty.
Well, the dumbest thing is he said when your friends come by, when you have visitors, you clean up your house. Like, how about just keep your fucking house clean?
Can you imagine?
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard anybody say ever as a governor as to excuse to why you finally cleaned up your homeless problem.
And then there's the population exodus. People are fleeing California like it's a sinking cruise ship, and Gavin Newsom is frantically trying to plug the hole with campaign flyers. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan didn't just leave the state, he launched a full-blown intellectual evacuation, packing up and essentially sending a digital middle finger in podcast form. His departure wasn't quiet. It was a loud, deliberate rejection of Newsom's leadership, dragging the governor's entire policy portfolio behind him like a confused raccoon hauling a trash can into the woods. Take education, for example. Newsom treats California's school system like a Pinterest board, all lofty ideas and zero follow-through. Students are graduating, capable of writing a thesis on equity but unable to do long division. Rogan, who routinely interviews astrophysicists and Navy SEALs in the same episode, could barely contain himself when pointing out the absurdity. To him, California's criminal justice system has devolved into the Chuck E. Cheese of fun than fear. As Rogan put it, if returning a library book late earns you more consequences than robbing a Walgreens, then maybe the system could use a reboot.
See what Gavin Newsom said to him?
No.
Pull that post up, Jamie. Gavin Newsom said that you should be posting this. That we're going to make it illegal, and I'm going to sign a law. And he said, "Professor suck."
Didn't.
Yes, he did.
Elon said that to Gavin Newsom?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I checked with renowned world authority Professor Sug on D's nuts, and he said parody is legal in America.
Then there's Newsom's personal branding, basically a political Instagram filter. Smooth, polished, and aggressively fake. Everything about him screams, "Trust me, I've rehearsed this smile 47 times in the mirror." Meanwhile, Joe Rogan, whose entire persona is built on being an unfiltered human powered by muscles and mushrooms, took one look at that plastic facade and cracked it with a single syllable. It's tough to compete with a guy who can casually ask a neuroscientist about DMT, then end your entire PR strategy with a sigh. Newsom seems to think being photogenic is a policy. He struts around in rolled up sleeves like he's about to fix a car, when in reality, the only thing he's ever tuned up is his talking points. And Rogan saw right through it. He's the kind of guy who can smell BS through a podcast mic. Meanwhile, Gavin can't manage a state without triggering mass migration, media mockery, and meme factories. Yet somehow, he thinks he's ready for the big league's presidential aspirations and all. This is the same guy whose response to every crisis is either a task force or a photo op. Rogan nearly choked on his elk jerky. Because if California is the audition tape, then Newsom's presidency would be the blooper reel.
What do you make of what Gavin Newsom is doing right now with this podcast? Because I've said I'm against conservatives going on his podcast because I think it's helping him train for 2028. Yeah, I don't think we should help him.
I agree completely. I didn't think that. I know, obviously.
He's strong. Gavin Newsom's not strong. He's French laundry. He's too pretty. He's too needy of like the good opinion of people like Charlie, who I love. But like as a Democrat, you shouldn't be looking for approval from Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk. He's a little too effete.
Transportation in California is a tragic comedy. The high-speed rail project moves slower than a DMV line. Billions of dollars later, and all we have is a concrete scar running through farmland. Joe Rogan looked at that boondoggle and laughed, like someone pitched him a startup for underwater toasters. It's not infrastructure, it's theater. Expensive, flashy, and completely useless. And then there's Gavin Newsom's Olympic ability to dodge blame. Like he's playing political dodgeball with flaming lawsuits. He's always conveniently one step removed, never the guy at fault. But Rogan doesn't play that game. He dismantles it with surgical sarcasm. When Gavin blames the system, Joe calmly points out, "Buddy, you are the system. You've been in office longer than most people's mortgages." Newsom's go-to move is acting surprised when his own policies crash and burn, like a chef stunned that dumping gasoline on a grill started a fire. And somehow, he still thinks he's the adult in the room. This is a man who speaks like a TED Talk collided with a Whole Foods seminar on kale vibrations. He's got that slow, syrupy tone that practically whispers, "Should I ban plastic straws?" But ignore the rolling blackouts. Ask again later. Do Californians enjoy paying $5 a gallon for gas while dodging sidewalk tent cities? Outlook not so good.
He is smart to start this. And the reason he's smart to start it is because he has no muscles, Emily. None. He's a sinewy little weakling when it comes to arguing any of these issues, especially cultural issues, because he, like all liberals, has never had to do it. So now he's trying to get his training, which is smart on his part, and it would be smart on the part of conservatives to say no, because they declined to help him get in shape before the big bout. We're supposed to be helping Rocky, not Drago.
And the best part, Gavin delivers it all with that deadpan expression, like he's single-handedly solving climate change with nothing but inspirational hashtags and recycled wine bottles. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan, a man who's interviewed everyone, from rocket scientists to folks convinced the moon is hollow and run by ancient lizard people, still found Gavin's logic to be the most chaotic thought spiral he's ever witnessed. That's right, Rogan has patiently listened to full-grown adults explain chemtrails, Bigfoot sightings, and why the Earth is actually flat and covered by a dome, and still found Newsom harder to follow than a goat on rollerblades. Gavin governs like he's the misunderstood genius in an indie film that only he thinks is profound. But back in reality, Joe Rogan is armed with the verbal equivalent of a weed whacker, slicing through the tangled mess of double talk, overregulation, and that ever cloud of smug incompetence.
1,000 acres. In LA, at least 17,000 acres have been burned to the ground, have been eliminated. I heard somebody saying it looks like Mars. Like it looks like the surface of Mars now, just burned embers. An area bigger than the island of Manhattan. Think of if New York were just eliminated. It looks, forgive me, but it looks like a nuclear bomb hit the region. Just a huge swath of one of our most beautiful cities is gone. She's going. I don't know if she knows that. Gavin Newsom, same. You're effed. Stop telling us about the embers in your hair. It's over for you, my friend. I'm sorry, but your political career ended last week. Again, he's pretending like he doesn't know it.
Gavin spins, pivots, and deflects like he's auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. All political contortion and theatrical flair. But Joe Rogan just leans back with that classic dude, what? Face. And suddenly it's like watching a tower of political Jenga collapse in glorious slow motion. One misplaced buzzword, and it's game over. The illusion crumbles faster than Gavin's approval ratings during a heatwave, when Californians can't charge their electric cars or turn on a fan without summoning a utility demon. See, Gavin imagines California as a shining lighthouse, but under his leadership, it's more like a bug zapper, bright, expensive, constantly buzzing, and absolutely lethal to anything that gets too close. Rogan's not buying the spin. He lived in California. He witnessed the decline up close, like a slow-motion demolition where every new policy was a wrecking ball and Gavin stood in the rubble, proudly declaring, "We're innovating." As the roof caved in, Rogan didn't need to exaggerate, he just reported what he saw and let the absurdity speak for itself. And what he saw was a state hemorrhaging residents like it was handing out one-way tickets to Texas and Florida as parting gifts.
I tell you, I don't think Gavin Newsom is the great white hope of the Democratic Party. I really don't. I don't see it happening. Am I wrong? I realize he's got the widow's peak. That's in his favor. He's got the gravelly voice. I don't think I thought Bashir could do it because he's a blue governor in a red state, Kentucky. But the more I listen to him, the more I'm like, he can't do it. He seems pathetic and weak. I'm sorry.
In the end, Rogan didn't even have to destroy Gavin Newsom. Gavin basically built his own self-destruct device out of broken legislation, faulty logic, and pure uncut hubris. Joe just pointed at it with a flashlight, laughed, and said, "You guys see this, right?" And California collectively nodded while...
In the end, Rogan didn't even have to take Gavin Newsom down. Gavin built his own self-destruct device out of broken legislation, faulty logic, and pure unfiltered hubris. Joe just pointed a flashlight at the mess, chuckled, and asked, "You guys see this, right?" And California, sitting in the dark during yet another rolling blackout, collectively nodded. Because, let's be honest, when your state leads the nation in homelessness, taxes, and outbound U-Haul rentals, you don't need a world-class comedian to make you look bad. Your policies are already doing that heavy lifting. Newsom's political legacy so far: convincing millions of people to pay extra for the privilege of watching their quality of life collapse like a vegan souffle in a wind tunnel. He struts around like a monarch in a banana republic. No podium, no real plan, just an endless stream of photo ops and platitudes. And somehow, it all crumbles harder than California's budget during wildfire season.
Here's what he found, put together after Newsom was out there claiming, never.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
That's so fun. Gavin, a simple Google search about yourself will serve you well before you make these sweeping claims. But on the same dishonest, disingenuous front, he tried to act like he's the reasonable one on the trans and the children issue.
Gavin still struts around like he's delivering the keynote at a global summit on planetary healing. But Joe Rogan already gave the eulogy not just for Newsom's reputation, but for the entire fantasy world Gavin seems to live in, where raising taxes, banning anything remotely enjoyable, and ignoring crumbling infrastructure somehow counts as progress. Rogan's roast wasn't even cruel, was a mercy, like telling someone they have spinach in their teeth before they go live on national television. Except in this case, the spinach was an entire failed governorship. And the punchline: Gavin just kept smiling that same stiff Zoolander smirk, as if he's the only one who hasn't realized the emperor has no clothes, and is still charging you extra fees for the privilege of noticing.